How many games is Syracuse football going to win next season?
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And for today's Poll Friday, I asked the question, over/under 8.5 wins for Syracuse football next season. Basically, all I'm asking is, are they going to win 9 games or more, or do you think they're going to win less than that? And you guys voted on this one. Now, I did have to amend it because the original one that I put out on Monday got a lot of engagement, which is always great. Love when you guys vote and everything like that on Twitter and on YouTube. But over 90% of you said over 7.5 wins. So I went back and I was like, you know what? I got to amend this because everyone's saying the over. We got to make it a little bit more interesting. Consider me like Vegas, right? Vegas will change the line when they see the bettors react to the original line. That's basically what I did right here. But anyways, over under 8.5 wins for Syracuse football next season. You guys voted. There were 520 total votes on Twitter and on YouTube. And 399 of you, so nearly 400, said that Syracuse football will win more than 8.5 games. That is about 75%. So, a lot of you guys are very optimistic about Syracuse football next season, and I don't want to come across as someone who is not optimistic about the season, but I am not willing to go over 8.5. I have them at 8-4 in the regular season, and then a bowl game. Who knows, right? A bowl game's a bowl game with all the sitting out and everything. It is what it is. I'm not willing to go more than 8.5. There are a few reasons for this. While I will acknowledge that the team is probably more talented than any team in recent history, at least. You know, they have Kyle McCord, who's one of the best quarterbacks, or has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks for Syracuse in quite some time. You have all those weapons with Oronde Gadsden coming back. Obviously, they just got Justice Ross Simmons from Colorado State, Dan Villari, LeQuint Allen, Jackson Meeks, Zeed Haynes. I get all of it, right? Not willing to go more than 8.5. Reason for that is because part of it, recent history for Syracuse football. We have to just acknowledge it. I understand it's a new era with Fran Brown, but in the last 22 years, Syracuse football has had one season above the line that I set, which was 8.5. 1 year. That was, of course, 2018, where they won 10 games. That's the only time in the past 22 years that they have won more than 8.5. Now, a lot of reason for optimism, and I share it sort of because I have them at 8-4, is the schedule. It's an easy schedule, right? So to speak, easy. You don't have Clemson or Florida State, which are clearly the two classes of the ACC. Those are the schools that Syracuse is trying to chase. Those are the schools that Syracuse hopefully will become one day, one of those perennial powers in the conference. And by the way, neither school is leaving the conference anytime soon, and they're sure not going to leave for free if you're following along that court case. But anyways, you don't have Clemson or Florida State. So a lot of people, including myself, are probably giving a little bit more wins on their schedule than if they had them originally, if that makes sense. Now, coming up, what are some of my reservations on the schedule? We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game. Pull off some bank heists and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and today's Pull Friday topic is over under 8.5 wins for Syracuse football next season. I have them at slightly under 8 wins for this team. 1 year in the past 22, they have gone more than the line that I set, but you guys disagree with me. 75% of over 500 people that voted across Twitter and YouTube say they will win more than 8.5 games. We talked about, the positivity with the schedule, how there's no Clemson, there's no Florida State, 2 of the best teams in the ACC. But what are some reservations that I have? I don't think it's as cupcake as people make it seem to be. Georgia Tech at home is going to be a good test early in the season for this team. Talked about Haynes King with Tyler Budge, and one thing that we both agreed on is that Haynes King is a pretty underrated quarterback at Georgia Tech. Yes, he turned the ball over a lot, but he is a dual threat guy, and Syracuse lost to this team last season. Georgia Tech was a bowl team, had the same record as Syracuse at 7-6. So yeah, you get them at home, and I think that will be a good litmus test early in the season. Like if they were to blow out Georgia Tech completely, I think, that might be something that I might amend my prediction, right? Might be able to amend it if you blow out Georgia Tech, but I don't think that is a cupcake. I think they will win that game, but it's not a guaranteed slam dunk checkmark win like a Holy Cross. They do also have that 6-game stretch that I've talked about from October to November, which is at UNLV, at NC State, at Pitt, Virginia Tech at home. That's the lone home game. You got Boston College on the road, and you got at Cal. 5 of those 6 teams that I mentioned were bowl teams last year. The lone wolf on that one is Pitt, having a miserable season. They're looking for a bounce back. So that's obviously going to be a tough stretch for this team. They might, in that 6-game stretch, go 3-3. 3-3, that puts them probably at 3 losses for the year if you go 3-3 in that stretch. And that's not bad. But, you got 2 trips to the West Coast. You got 5 road games. Winning on the road is not easy in college football. You got 5 teams that made bowl games last year. It's not an easy stretch by any means. So I can easily see Syracuse slipping up 3 times there. And then I think the toughest game on the schedule has to be Miami at home. Now, Syracuse is a team that, yes, they are getting better athletes with Fran Brown now with his recruiting and everything like that. But I don't know if we're going to see the fruits of the labor of that recruiting next season right away. Yeah, they got Fadil Diggs on defense. That's great. They got Kyle McCord, who's a different type of talent. But still, it's going to take a little bit of time, I think. You got Miami, who, yeah, they constantly underachieve every single season. I 100% acknowledge it. I think Mario Cristobal is one of the worst coaches in college football because what he did against Georgia Tech and not kneeling the ball was mind-bogglingly dumb. I can't even believe it. He is the worst coach in the ACC, one of the worst coaches in the ACC. But I have to acknowledge Miami has exceptional talent, and Syracuse is a team that even when they play against that struggling team, if that team has more talent, they typically will lose that game in recent years. Now, I have 3 examples for this. In 2022, which is this past year, or 2023 past year, Syracuse, of course, played Clemson in the 5th week of the season, and the Tigers were 2-2 going into that game. Syracuse once again got off to a 4-0 start. And everyone was a little bit optimistic. Hey, could this be an 8-9 win year for this team? Clemson 2-2. They lost on the road at Duke. And Clemson beat them, and beat them pretty good. Clemson just has more talent, right? And then the previous year, there was 2 games in the span of 3 weeks where Syracuse got blown out. The first of which was at home, or both of them were at home. One was to Notre Dame, where the Irish were 4-3, and Syracuse was 6-1, coming off a close loss at Clemson. I guess that's the one counter to my argument here. And Syracuse got annihilated in that game against Notre Dame. I remember the game started with a pick 6 right off the bat. They just got blown out. Notre Dame was just a team with more talent. And then a couple of weeks later, they play Florida State at home. Both had the same record. They were 6-3 going in. And Florida State won 38-3. What's my point with all that? I get it. They're not playing Clemson. They're not playing Notre Dame. They're not playing Florida State on the schedule. Miami is that type of team, though. Miami, with their recruiting in recent years and their transfer portal classes every year, they are the type of squad that just has more natural athleticism and talent. And Syracuse has struggled against those sort of teams in recent memory. Now, I could be wrong, and hopefully I am wrong. Hopefully Syracuse wins 10 games. Hopefully they win 9 games, something like that. But right now, I am not willing to go more than 8. That's where I'm at right now, 8-4 for this Syracuse team. They'll make a bowl game, and then, who knows what happens in the bowl game. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications so you know right away when I'm dropping the next podcast. Now, of course, this is a Poll Friday episode. The next Poll Friday question will be released on Monday. I don't know. I have plenty of time to figure out what that question is going to be. Everyone, have a great day.